What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week. Before I get into the news, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So join if you can. It's always a good time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. So as far as the news this week, there's lots of great news if you're a JDM car fan. There's been some really cool announcements here this week. So first, after revealing the cool off-roader concepts at SEMA this past week, Toyota this week has finally built a car that many of us have been wanting and asking for, an all-wheel drive turbocharged GR86. It's just a concept, don't get too excited, but I think there is some promise here. So anyway, it's called the GR86 Rally Legacy concept, and along with the fantastic retro livery here, they found a way to squeeze in that GR Corolla turbo 3-cylinder and an all-wheel drive system and paired it up with a sequential racing transmission for rally duty. In order to fit all of this, Toyota had to modify the chassis and make a custom subframe and engine mounts to accommodate the taller engine and the hubs, the spindles, and axles for the front part of that all-wheel drive system. Those changes are quite big, so I don't think we should expect anything like this for the current generation vehicle. Those are some major structural changes there you can't easily implement. But there have been rumors, though, about a next-gen GR86 getting a GR Corolla powertrain. And, I wonder how drastic they could change stuff. So, I think we could maybe see a very heavily revised, third-generation GR86 that does make accommodations for this engine and reworks everything for that, which I guess would push Subaru out of that partnership. It probably wouldn't get the all-wheel drive system, though. I wouldn't bank on that, but could actually get that motor, and we will see. But this shows that it is possible. I had previously been told that you couldn't even really put the engine in there without having to lift like the whole dashboard and a bunch of other stuff in order to have everything be adjusted, and it just makes the car too big. This shows that it does fit. Whether it meets OEM standards is a whole nother thing. Probably maybe doesn't, but it's possible, and that's exciting to see. Others have kind of hacked up BRZs and 86s in the past to fit WRX motors and whatever else they wanted to, but this shows, that this is possible. I'd be so curious to see how this drives, because the whole thing with boxer engines in these cars, they said, well, that's the only way we can have good handling. And I'm wondering, is this thing a disaster in the handling department? Yes, it's lifted and it's a rally car, so you don't need the low center of gravity, but does it handle badly with a higher engine like that? I still think it'd be really fun. So we'll see, again, if that teases anything down the road or not. But moving on to the next news story here, though. Speaking of the next-gen GR86, Toyota also dropped a sneaky teaser several weeks ago that was actually just realized here in this past week or so. And this teaser seems to hint about the whole coming Toyota sports car lineup here in the future. So in the first episode of their Grip anime series that Toyota's putting out, there's a whiteboard that lists out a new-gen version of a Supra, Celica, MR2, and GR86, along with a GR GT3, which would be a homologation street legal version of their new GT3 race car. And so this could be, show creators just having some fun. But again, this is a Toyota project that they put out. This isn't, some other thing. This isn't, this is wholeheartedly, reviewed, endorsed by Toyota in every way. So to me, that means this is deliberate. If they were worried about, their plans leaking out or something, they wouldn't have allowed this to go out, I don't think. So, I think that's pretty cool. And, there have been Toyota executives, various executives in the past that have said how they'd love to bring back the Celica and other sports car names from the past. And there's, of course, been lots of rumors about these vehicles as well. And, of course, Toyota showed off the FT SE concept last fall, which, most people think is a new MR2. Toyota has kind of said it isn't, and it's kind of a new thing. Again, we will see, once we cut through all the noise and stuff, what actually it ends up being, if anything at all. And of course, we've also seen the GR GT3 that was already shown back in 2022. Looks like it's basically going to look the same, and that is the racing version. Again, they will adapt it for street use a little bit. You probably won't get the side pipes you see there on the race car version there, but a lot of that should remain. And So interesting there. But according to Motor One, the rumor about the next-gen GR86 is that supposedly the plans for that car have been moved up, and it's now coming sooner than we expected, which, never made sense to me, because that was always all the rumors were said, oh, we're going to get a new one in 2026. And I'm like, that is like 4 years after the other one. And I mean, the last one lasted 10. So like, why would it come so soon? Just didn't make sense. They now have some explanation as to why. And now these rumors sound a whole lot more credible. So they said that this is being moved up reportedly due to the current car's engine not being able to potentially meet the coming Japanese emissions regulations for their country. And so that's why they need to put in this new powertrain. And I guess the GR Corolla motor is already ready to go for that. Or the rumors have also suggested it'll be GR Corolla powertrain with a hybrid component to, again, meet those goals. And maybe that's something they'll do for all of these GR products. We'll see. But so, also add to that the fact that the GR86 already isn't sold in Europe anymore due to it not being able to meet, I believe, the cybersecurity rules over there. And so, all these things just probably add a lot of pressure to Toyota to be like, okay, our home market might not be able to sell this car anymore. We already don't sell it in Europe. And those are two important places where I think they really want to sell this thing. And so I think that could motivate it. I mean, again, we have the awesome leadership with Koji Sato, now CEO, and Akio Toyoda still chief, chairman there, who, love these sports cars and will push through beyond, whatever the logical business case is, push through and get these things done. So I could see this, actually happening here. So all sounds very exciting and promising. We've heard various rumors as far as Celica, and as far as MR2. There's been rumors about a cheap MR2, and then also this, again, high-end electric kind of thing. Who knows, what's going to happen there. And as far as, Celica, Supra, it's really kind of an unknown for both of those at this point too. So we'll have to see, but very promising and exciting to hear all of that. But the good news for JDM fans doesn't stop there, because Mazda's head of design confirmed in a Mazda published story this week that the amazing SP Sports Coupe concept, the Iconic concept that we saw last fall, will in fact come to production, and it'll come soon, with his exact quote here saying, "This concept is not just one of those empty show cars. It has been designed with real intent to turn it into a production model in the not so distant future." And their chief executive officer at Mazda's R&D strategy planning division, whew, that's a long title, further drives this point home, saying everything from position of the doors and tires to the length of the vehicle, the seating position of the occupants, and visibility was meticulously researched before reaching the final specifications. Those are things you don't do for a fun show car that's just supposed to, draw eyeballs to your stand. Like, this is an actual serious undertaking. And as far as the powertrain goes, the concept had a dual rotary range extender motor engine, up front, that then powered a battery pack in the middle of the vehicle, that then transferred power to a rear electric motor. It was one motor, rear wheel drive, makes 365 horsepower. And previously, it sounded like there were some technical hurdles that they were trying to work through, but they did reinstate their rotary division back in February to, start working on this stuff. And I think, reading between the lines here, it sounds like February is maybe when this thing was formally greenlit, even though we haven't heard that officially. But now hearing that, their, executives here are saying that they are turning it into a production model in the not so distant future, this is confirmed for production. This thing is greenlit, good to go. And that's awesome. It's really fantastic, especially if Toyota does that MR2. It's basically like all the fun concepts we saw last year at Tokyo will actually be production cars, and that's just phenomenal. So, as far as this rotary, though, they, had some hurdles they were dealing with, but according to their most recent quarterly earnings report here for financial stuff, this past week here, they actually revealed that the development of emissions compliance for the rotary engine is very challenging, but we are making good progress. Because that's the thing about rotaries, is they're usually not very fuel efficient. So, trying to work through that is the thing. But I think, the fact that they are sticking to a rotary thing, this is going to be the new RX-7. There's also been some talks that this vehicle doesn't have to be this big, and they could shrink it down to MX-5 size. And maybe that could be something they pursue after this fun experiment of RX9 or whatever they call this thing ends up being. But I think, they'll probably go the conservative route for MX-5 and keep that regular gas powered, for now. But this could be a cool front runner, coming in the next few years here. See how that does, work out some of the kinks with those early adopters, and then hopefully, by the time we hit the 2030s, maybe we have a solid powertrain that can be then adapted to a next gen MX-5 or something like that. But we'll see. But it really sounds like, again, being rotary powered, this thing's going to be a reborn RX-7, rebirthed RX-7, and it's very exciting to hear that. So very, very cool. And also, another little tidbit in that financial report from Mazda is that they revealed that they're also working on a new 4-cylinder engine to replace both the Skyactiv-G and the Skyactiv-X engines. The X one we never got here in the States. That was like this direct compression kind of thing. But Skyactiv-G is what you see in all the regular 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated turbo or gas engines here from Mazda. So this new one they're developing here is going to be called Skyactiv-Z, and it's planned to come to production in 2027. And they say it'll use the Lambda 1 combustion method to achieve high thermal efficiency by realizing super lean burn combustion over a wide range from low to high RPM to provide excellent environmental performance and driving performance. So, sounds like a nice evolution for the engine there, and it'll first be put into cars for the US and Europe, they say, meaning it'll comply with all the new emissions regulations there in Europe. And it's possible that this new engine could be what debuts in a next-gen Miata. It's easy, though, to envision that a next-gen Mazda 3 also should be due up around 2027, if not sooner. And that could also be a home for this new engine as well. But, Mazda makes some great motors here, so great to see them continuing to work on that as well. And Kia this week has revealed the 2026 Sportage in South Korea. And as you can see here, it gets a revised front end and new taillights and a slightly tweaked rear bumper. And inside, it also gets a new dash, steering wheel, new internals for the curved double 12.3-inch screens there. There's also a new head-up display available and a driver monitoring sensor. It also gets the same baby and toddler mode as the Tucson to smooth acceleration. And there's now more sound dampening in the doors and the B-pillars for a quieter ride, they say. There's also revised front dampers, and in Korea, where it still was offered with the 1.6-liter Turbo 4, it drops the 7-speed dual clutch there for the torque converter 8-speed. It's a switch we've saw in the past couple of years here in the States as well. But now we've just had the regular torque converter for a while now with the naturally aspirated motor instead. And just one little note there for the South Korean market. But, another, quirky design here from Kia. I think it works, though, for Sportage and changes it enough, but not so much that it's wildly different from the old one. And, a really nice little refresh there. But moving on, Audi also has revealed an interesting new car here and a sub-brand for China that's brand new as well at the Shanghai Motor Show. So, in sadly, typically confusing Audi fashion, the new sub-brand is called Audi. In all capital letters, though, this time, and without rings. Man, I would hate to work at that company and have to figure out, are we talking about the lowercase Audi or the uppercase Audi? It's a pain enough even having to talk about it here because I'm going to have to keep differentiating the two every time I say it. But anyway, it's a partnership with Chinese company SAIC, and it's to build cars only for China, but they will be shaped 100% by the lowercase Audi DNA. So it'll be exclusively EVs, and the first one shown here is called the Audi E concept. And while it might not look crazy, it'll have a bonkers 764 horsepower from 2 electric motors, a 3.6 second 0 to 62 mile per hour time, and Audi, capital letters, claims that it'll drive like a real Audi, lowercase letters. And so it runs a 100 kilowatt hour battery and has a 435 mile range on the Chinese test cycle, and it's on an 800 volt platform that allows 230 miles of range in 10 minutes. And Audi, capital letters, calls the styling calm but still striking. And I have to say, I do really love the wagon design here. It's a tiny bit larger than an A6 for reference, and inside it has a curved screen that even goes beyond the A-pillars there because it has cool camera side mirrors that are legal elsewhere in the world. And it's worth noting this car may not come to production exactly like this, because Audi, capital letters, does say that it's pretty close to what future production models will look like. and they'll actually be launching 3 different models based on this concept. So basically, there still could be one that looks like this, this kind of body style, but, expect this styling language to spread out to other stuff, including, they say, a mid-size and full-size segment of vehicles. So first production one will be arriving in the middle of 2025 for China. So interesting to hear that. But for some Audi news here that affects us here in North America, Audi confirmed, and now, again, from going forward, I'm speaking Audi lowercase. Thankfully, we can leave that capital letters Audi for China. But here in the North American market, Audi confirmed that the new A7 will debut in the beginning of next year. And like we heard earlier this year, it'll combine with the A6 to be the only mid-sized gas-powered Audi sedan, while the A6 for the next generation will only go to the e-tron. It'll be A6 e-tron, and that's it for that. Just like how we saw the A5 now replacing the A4 as the sedan in the lineup, and same thing going, with the Q5 and all that. So the new A7 has been spied already. I'm not able to show the pictures, unfortunately, because they're all copyrighted. But it looks like a traditional sedan shape will be offered. So they're not all going to be sportbacks, I don't think, unless they do the same kind of trickery maybe that we're seeing with the A5. But yeah, and it's safe to assume, we'll have similar kind of styling language we've been seeing with, A5, Q5, all that. So very interesting to hear that, and we'll stay tuned for that early next year. In some other Volkswagen Group news, Bentley has just teased their first EV, confirming it'll be an urban SUV, according to them, and that means it'll be smaller than the Bentayga, and it'll be arriving in 2026. And they added that the range will be amazing, and the charging speed will be extraordinarily good, and that sound is very important, so their EV will have a unique sound that's exhilarating, and that they don't want to copy anything or anyone. And they also reiterated they do still plan to go fully electric for the entire range by 2035, which I thought was kind of up in the air. So that's interesting to hear them recommit to that. And they say they do, though, plan to continue to invest in hybrid and gas, combustion engine vehicles in the meantime. But interesting to hear that. I think, for a company like Bentley, they are a little bit more enthusiast-based than like Rolls-Royce, but I think it still makes sense for a luxury vehicle to have complete silence for those who want it. And for the few, Bentley fans that do like the sounds, you can always, digitally add that back in if you want, just like how Rolls-Royce did with the Spectre. So, and again, we'll see where we're at in 2035, but interesting to hear that. Mercedes-AMG also revealed their own silhouette teaser here this week. This one for their first electric SUV developed solely for AMG. It'll be on their new AMG EA platform, and it'll be a full-size model as far as sizing. So think like GLS big. And they say it'll be AMG first, all-electric second. And I don't know why they're doing this, honestly. I mean, again, I'm all for companies trying to, offer everything that, they can, but it just seems strange with the failure of the BMW XM, which was a hybrid, which you would think would actually be kind of the right combo for, the current times we're in, and Mercedes struggling to sell all their already, impressive EVs in many cases. They can't even sell those. And now you're going to make one that's even more expensive. You're trying to target the performance crowd who's just been yelling at you that you got rid of the V8. Now you're going to try and go full EV. Obviously, it'll be insanely fast, I'm sure. They're saying they'll be using their new axial flux motors and more power dense batteries. So from an EV standpoint, it'll be phenomenal. And maybe they will conquest some new buyers that are new to the AMG brand. But this, I don't think, is going to make AMG buyers any happier, after what they've seen with C63 and all that. So this is kind of interesting that they've chosen to do this. And I hope that does well for them. And, again, this is probably a few years away here, and I think we will see a new wave of EV adoption later this decade, potentially. But, this one's a leap of faith, I think, for them, at least in my mind it is. And so we'll see how that goes for them. There isn't any kind of release date or even a year teased with this one, but it seems like everyone is expecting it around 2026. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, very interesting to hear that. Another vehicle in the works here that was teased this week was the new Nissan Patrol Nismo. And the Patrol is the name for the Armada elsewhere in the world. And the last generation also got a Nismo version in the Middle East. We didn't get that here in the States, unfortunately. But talking with Australian magazine Drive, Nissan's Senior Vice President of Global Design said about the new one here that when I first saw it, I didn't sleep for 4 days. When I saw the milled clay, because when you see sketches and things like that, you lose a sense of the scale of the thing. It's a beast. I really hope he's exaggerating for comedic effect here by saying he didn't sleep for 4 days. Because if he's actually saying that literally, I mean, man, that is that's not healthy. And also, there's been nothing ever in my 34 years of life that I've lost 4 days of sleep over, and certainly not the design of a new vehicle. Even if I am, the one designing it. I don't know. I'm sure that is hopefully very much exaggeration, but that is a strange quote. And he didn't really reveal anything else about it other than saying it'll obviously have more power and torque. And when asked about people that might miss the V8 sound of the old one, with the twin turbo V6 presumably being in this like it is in the other new Armadas, and asked about whether or not they do speakers, to kind of augment the sound for the new one, he said, "I'm not saying we're doing that, but of course there are synthetic sounds that people do." Which sounds basically like, yes, that is what they're planning. If you can read between the lines there. But he didn't say it technically, but it's very interesting. I'm very curious though, will they actually bring this one to the States, or is this going to remain a Middle East special for this new version? I will have to see. But following up on his comment about not sleeping for 4 days, if there's any reason for a Nissan employee to not be sleeping for 4 days, it would be their financial outlook right now, I think, and the turmoil that they're going through. And we have some new info on that here this week. So this week, they announced they plan to cut 9,000 jobs at Nissan, reduce their global production capacity by 20%, and sell also 1/3 of their stake in Mitsubishi, which is also actually really notable, and that's to raise more money, of course. And the layoffs are designed to adjust production to the lower demand that dealers are now seeing, with bloated inventories, and I guess recently even dealers have been asked to sell vehicles at a loss, which I'm sure dealers did not enjoy hearing. Nissan has piled on a bunch of incentives as well, but even that doesn't seem to be enough, and that's again why they asked dealers to take a loss there. But the sale part, I think, of Mitsubishi is partially to offset all that money they're spending on incentives, which is, massive. I think it's in the hundreds of millions or over 100 million they're spending on all that. But so they also didn't clarify in this whether they have a buyer for that stake in Mitsubishi, because that's, 1/3 of their stake. I don't know exactly what their stake is off the top of my head, but, 1/3 of their stake is a sizable chunk, and that would, give another company, a decent amount of access and maybe even a little bit of sway into Mitsubishi there. So they didn't say, when they're selling that, who they're selling it to, if they even have a buyer lined up at all. Maybe they don't. But that's notable, so we do know that Nissan, Mitsubishi, and Honda have a partnership, they are working on here as far as new platforms, EVs, all that. So some are suggesting that maybe this could be, something that Honda is interested in. I just don't know if Honda has deep enough pockets to, start buying up other companies like that. Honda does partnerships, but I don't think Honda really owns anybody else, even a stake, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm very curious to follow that story and see who ends up with that part of Nissan there. But also, in a very respectable move, at least in my opinion, Nissan's CEO is also giving himself a 50% pay cut to take accountability for the shortcomings of Nissan. And man, could you imagine if every CEO, took accountability whenever they dropped the ball, and, took pay cuts? Yeah. Anyway, I have immense respect for Nissan's leadership hearing that one fact alone. So anyway, Nissan said they still plan to launch 30 new or updated vehicles, but some of them may end up being delayed or not at all. We'll see, how that all plays out. It sounds like they have a bright future. Again, I just spent a bunch of time in the new Nissan Kicks. It's fantastic. I think they have great new products coming. Finally getting a new Murano here after a long time. There's a lot on the horizon. I think there's a lot to be hopeful for, including that Nismo version of the Armada, according to their designer there. But, hopefully hopefully they turn it around. I really think they're on the right track, so it really would be a shame if they weren't able to turn it around. But hopefully these changes keep them afloat, and they can continue to, be a solid company here going forward. And for some more not so great news here, though, GM's Senior Vice President of Software and Services told The Verge that GM will not be reversing their decision to, get rid of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in their, electric vehicles here. And he says they believe they are still making the right move, explaining that we have a strong conviction that effort pays off in a better customer experience, and added that you get the most out of your vehicle because now we're the company that builds the vehicle and is also creating the infotainment experience, the cluster experience, the app, and everything. We're going to build that one day and maybe a voice assistant on top of it. So that means that even the Google built-in stuff isn't good enough for them. They want to even get rid of Google, it sounds like, and even go everything on their own. And I don't know if they just are, having selective memory about the history of any OEM trying to develop their own software. Maybe they're all inspired by Tesla and Rivian and others that, have had some success just nixing, anything else and just doing it on their own. But I mean, usually car companies are not good at doing their own baked-in infotainment. A lot of them recently have been a lot better. And for doing the basic stuff, tuning radio stations, all those usual things, it's fine. But, for navigation, almost everyone, I would say, agrees that you're just better off using the maps on your phone. It's one of those things. Even Ferrari recently said they're giving up on navigation built into their vehicles because even Ferrari, who is such a prideful company that never admits when they're wrong and always thinks that they're doing the best of everything, even they have admitted to just, what, we need to just let the phone do this. And they're just putting that integration like we saw in the 12 Cylindri, having a regular touchscreen for your smartphone mirroring. Even Ferrari, that should really speak volumes as far as, the compelling evidence for just sticking with CarPlay. Volvo's CEO also came out recently and said, sticking with CarPlay is the way to go. So anyway, GM continues to go to the beat of their own drum here, and we will see how it plays out for them. But I mean, if you saw earlier this summer, I had a week with a Blazer EV. I tried as an Apple user to, use that interface and try and connect it to my phone the best I could. And it was a horrible experience. It just was not as good as smartphone integration. It's really not hard. The solution is there. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. It's just crazy to me. And so anyway, interesting to hear that. And another strange move by GM, though, they announced that instead of merely pausing production of the Cadillac XT4, which was planned in January in order to retool part of the factory for the new Bolt that's coming in, they now are just continuing the XT4 altogether, just dropping it out of thin air, with production ending by January. So literally a month away. I think there's some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes with this, but I mean, it's a big shock because it just got a refresh for the 2024 model year, literally less than a year ago, I think. We saw this refresh with the new front end, the big 33-inch screen, all that. They definitely would not have bothered to go through all that trouble for one, maybe two model years, depending on how they start badging 2025s here, leading into January. But so that's interesting, and it shouldn't be an issue of sales either because the XT4 sells roughly the same amount as the CT4 and the CT5. And so, this is just crazy that they are trying to get rid of it. And that same factory in Fairfax, Kansas, also was already winding down production of the Malibu this month. So now they're going to be literally building nothing at that place. I feel bad for the workers there. Obviously, again, it's temporary. Bolt will be coming to that factory here next year, it sounds like. But yeah, they're idling the entire factory basically, I believe, unless there's something else built there that I'm not remembering. But GM gave no explanation for why they're dropping the XT4 out of thin air unexpectedly here, but I have two theories for why this could be. The first could be that they have revised their expectations for the new Bolt. Maybe they really want to make sure that the entire factory can just churn out bolts at a super quick pace. And, if it's going to be a vehicle that's truly going to be under 30 grand, it's an EV that's going to be really impressive, I could understand. Maybe they're seeing Equinox EV doing really well so far, and they want to be prepared for that. That is entirely a possibility, and I think a decent one as well. The other possibility, though, is that this announcement came at the end of this week here, after the very big presidential election news that we just had, we've been hearing about companies already scrambling to adjust their businesses to accommodate for these new tariffs that have been proposed. We will see if they end up actually happening or not, but companies are preparing for that, as a result of those results. And so Trump is proposing a 60% tariff on goods from China. And so we do know that, again, it may not happen, but the Lincoln Nautilus and the Buick Envision are built in China. And, they weren't affected by the previous other tariffs for China because they're not EVs. It was only for EVs with the ones that Biden introduced. And so now, Nautilus and Envision, if those tariffs do end up happening, or any tariffs at all, honestly, against China, are really going to make them hurt as far as profit margins on these vehicles, and they will go away, especially if it's a 60% tariff. They'll just drop out of the US market. So I think that my hunch is that they are quickly trying to bring Envision production, because the Buick Envision sells way more than the XT4. I think that so far this year they've sold like 34,000 Envisions. I think they're maybe up to like 15,000 of the XT4 or something like that. So way more Envisions. Clearly, it's going to be the one you prioritize if you have to choose between one or the other. I think that maybe, again, they haven't said yet. We will see what they say, if they say anything at all. But I think XT4 was sacrificed in order to bring Envision here to the States last minute, hastily, be able to, because they have that, that brand new kind of version, on the horizon here with some nice refreshes and stuff. I think it's, something they definitely want to make sure that they are able to sell here in America. So that would be my bet, and that kind of solves that puzzle piece as far as why this came so abruptly and so quickly out of the blue on something that, again, seems like it wouldn't make sense logically, any other kind of circumstances. And we'll see if Lincoln does something similar, because, again, Nautilus was just named by Motor Trend as SUV of the year. A lot of hype around it, a lot of interest in it. I loved it when I spent a week with it, this year. It's a really good SUV. I don't think they're going to want to just be like, okay, we won't sell it in America anymore. I think they're going to have to scramble as well if this plan actually does happen. Again, we will wait and see. But companies can't just wait and see. They have to make sure that they have contingency plans for this stuff. So I'd imagine you're going to see something give way at one of the Ford factories as well, in the event that they need to bring Nautilus production to North America, at the last minute. So we'll see, but very interesting to hear that about the XT4. And it's a shame to see it go. It was a good little crossover. I spent a week with one a few years ago, and I actually really liked it. I think it doesn't get enough credit. It's actually kind of sporty and a really fun little thing to run around in. So anyway, sad to see the XT4 go. And lastly, I'd like to thank all of you that are members of the Matt Moran Motoring Club. So we did have a bunch of new members able to join this past week, thanks to the very generous gifting that was done by many of you during the live stream here in last week's live stream there. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you here to Sean Brewer, Kyle, Shane Lockett, and Linda for your membership gifts. I really appreciate your generosity. I'm sure all of those who are members now as a result of those gifts are very appreciative as well. So thank you. Big thank you to all of you. And I also want to give a big welcome here to the new members. So big welcome here to Chase Lizelle, Mike Regina, Big Bang, Somi the Great, Stephen N, Jedediah Carter, Restored Data, Matt R, and Emily and Bridget. So I hope you're all enjoying those membership perks so far. Be sure to check out the membership tab here on the channel, and also the Discord server if you're able to get into that. Definitely send me a message and I'll be more than happy to give you the join link for that. And and also I'm looking forward to chatting with those of you who can make it to the live stream here, where those members always do get that priority answering. And if you'd also like that priority answering, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.